like today, we're having databases where we are honored. Also, I must thank them in advance to have a Kanyisile Vilagasi and Oltato Vijani, who will be sharing with us around the database. Thank you. I will then give the Kanyisile to be the host so that she can take us.
Motlokwe has said, I am Kanyisile Vilagazi. I have worked in the field of databases for over a decade now. Hopefully that does not give away my age. I'm excited to have this conversation with you guys. When Tobijane invited me to have this conversation, I did not hesitate to accept because databases or databases, as it's usually called, we usually use the two terms. I guess it's a similar situation as a tomato or tomato, however you call it, we refer to the same thing. When he invited me to have this conversation, I was like, definitely count me in, because it's a subject that I'm very passionate about. I'm hoping that by the time this session ends, you guys have a better understanding of what databases are and what benefits you can draw from them. We have a wider audience, I would believe. That's what I was briefed. So it ranges from students and all the way to professionals, and the professionals outside IT, professionals within IT, within databases itself. So I'm hoping that we will have a fruitful conversation, and I understand that to some this is gonna seem slightly easier, simple and straightforward, while to others it's gonna require a bit of a further explanation or more clarity for it to make sense. But hopefully by the time we get to the end of the session, we have achieved the objectives, which is just to try and give an understanding of what databases are. The way I would prefer to structure the session is that if you can just allow me to go through the presentation, and then I will take questions at the end, because you might find that you have a question while I'm still on slide number 3, but when I get to slide number 5, your question is answered. So if you can just please, as I go through the slides, make your notes of the questions that you have, and then when I'm done, I'll be taking questions. I don't know if there's anything that needs to be clarified further, or I can now proceed with the presentation itself. Okay, I will suppose the silence means I can proceed. Well, introduction to databases. Like I said earlier, some people will call it a database, some people will call it a database. So if during the presentation I switch between the usage of the word database or database, do not be confused, I'm still referring to the same thing. So what we are going to cover with this presentation is what is a database, why do we need a database, what are the most popular databases, the configuration options, and additional things to know like the dependencies, business continuity plan, as well as licenses. Okay, what is a database? There's basically two ways of explaining it. There's the layman's term, and then there's the technical definition. Well, ordinarily a database is just a set of data, whether you have gathered it manually or electronically, and it is accessible in various ways. You're probably wondering, under what condition would I have a paper-based database? Because on the examples here, the first one I'm mentioning is paper-based. If I give a scenario, if you go to a salon, I know men nowadays use the salon as well to cut the hair, so this should resonate to everyone. When you go to a salon, there's usually a book that they would keep there. In that book, you write your name, your cell phone number, what style did you do, and who was the stylist that did your hair or did your nails, whatever. So that is a typical example of what a paper-based database is. The data can be captured in an Excel or in a formal database like your Microsoft Access. So a technical definition of a database, it is a software that handles the storage, retrieval, and the updating of data in a computer system. Like I said, this is now the technical part of the explanation. This is now where we start talking about relational databases, structured and unstructured database. Basically, the data in a database is stored in a form of tables. Your tables will have your rows and your columns. Relational databases just simply means the tables within the database are able to relate to each other. A simple example, you may have an employees table where you keep your employee data. In that employee data, you just capture something like the name, the surname, the age, and then you will also have a department table. In your department table, you keep department so and so, just the names of the departments and their department numbers. There must be a way for each employee to be linked to the department that they belong to, because generally an employee will belong to a department. So the relational database simply means there is a way to relate the two tables. The data in the database can be structured or it can be unstructured. Okay, this is a little disruptive. I'm seeing people are waiting in the waiting room and I need to let them in. Okay, apologies for that. I just needed to let the other guys in. Let's move on. So why is a database important? A database is important because data is a critical asset for any organization. For a business to grow and to operate effectively, some level of data is needed to enable that. So you might need a database for analysis, like the saloon example that I have given. I'm hearing a bit of some sound. Okay, can I proceed? You guys can still hear me, right? I'm not talking to myself.
Yes, no, we are still here. We can proceed. I'll let you know if you are not audible, yeah?
All right, why is a database important? Like I was saying in that example of the saloon that I had given earlier, where they capture your data in that little book. For that saloon, for the owner to know what they need to stock up on, if they need to stock more relaxers or more dreadlock products, it's based on looking at the consumption based on the number of clients that have been, that are on the book. So you need to have that for analysis sake. You also need to have a database for reporting sake. Let's say you've got employee information that is captured somewhere. In that employee information, you have Ekanyisi Levilagazi is a female and she's between the ages of so and so, or you even capture the actual age. When you need to report, then you can get to a point where you say, maybe I've got 2,000 employees. Of the 2,000 employees, X number of people are male, Y number of people are female. Of that female, this is the age group for certain. So it's also for reporting. Another important thing here is that you might have multiple sources for reporting. Let's say you've got two databases, a database that you keep the employee information, like I just said now, separately, but you also have a database. Usually the employee data would belong to you in HR in an organization. Now you have another database that belongs to facilities. In that database, facilities just keeps the information of what infrastructure is where. For instance, we have an office number 112. In office number 112, there is a desk, there is a chair. Obviously, for you to repair a chair, you don't want to know who sits on that chair. You just know the chair is broken and it needs to be fixed. So there's no dependency and as such between the two. But you might need a report that says, okay, in office 115, where Kanyisile sits, this is the infrastructure that is there. So now you have to have a way of merging the data that contains the Kanyisile information and the data that contains the infrastructure information merged together. So when it's reporting, it could also be from multiple data sources. And then you also need a database to be able to store data. A typical example is when you service your car. You don't service your car that often. Obviously, it's not every day that it goes for service or every month. In fact, you might even have a case where you service your car twice in 5 years. But you want to, when you go back the second time for the service, for them to be able to retrieve the record of your first service to say, this is what was done when you came here the first time. We also need databases to frequently access data. A typical example, in a bank scenario, if you can just imagine a scenario where you've got 1,500 as your balance in your account and you wanted to withdraw all of it, or you plan to withdraw all of it. You put in your card, you go through the whole process of that we go through when we withdraw money from an ATM. But then you somehow disrupted, you decide, okay, or somehow you put 500 instead of 1,005. And as the transaction or as the money is being dispensed, you realize, no man, I didn't want 500 Rand, I wanted 1,005. You immediately put in your card to say, okay, let me withdraw the remaining 1,000 Rand. You need a reliable system that will reflect that the balance now is 1,000 Rand, not a system that will still reflect the 1.5 that you had intended to withdraw initially. Okay, these are the popular databases. The popularity is based on the usage. The source of this slide is from a website called statista.com. Well, what they do there is they explain how they look at the popularity and how they quantify it in terms of usage, as well as revenue and all of that. But commercially, the most popular ones will be your Oracle, your MS SQL, your MySQL, as well as the Postgres, I mean to say. But from the list, you can tell that there are databases that are open source, like your Postgres. You don't have to pay anything to use it. And the other ones, you have to pay some certain level of license. I will get to that as I get on with the presentation. But yeah, in terms of usage, the one that is widely used as at July 2020, worldwide, not South Africa only, is the Oracle instance or the Oracle product. So what are the configuration options that are there when it comes to databases? Well, databases can be configured in different ways because even their reason of what you use them for differs. You will configure a single instance, which we refer to as a standalone, in a case where you can afford to have a downtime, unplanned downtime for that matter. The reason I'm saying you can afford to have it an unplanned downtime is when you have a standalone instance and your instance fails, crashes, dies, you're gonna have to restore that instance or bring it back to life before you can be operational again. So this usually works in cases where you have a small Lanyana company and it's fine. You can be offline for about 3-4 hours. You're not going to lose much from that. Then you would consider configuring a single instance. And that's the most cost-effective way if you are hosting on site. Then you have got what we call replicated instances. When an instance is replicated, you have got a database that you can have a copy of. So you can have a live copy or you can have a cold copy. So a cold copy basically means you have your database that users are connected to. I'm going to call it a primary database. You have got a primary database that the users connect to, do transactions on. And then you make a copy of that such that if the primary dies, then you know you have a copy of it elsewhere that you can access immediately. The copy can be hot or can be cold. When it's cold, it means that you are copying things to the copy, but the copy is offline. When it's hot, you are copying things to the copy, but your copy is also online. In an Oracle instance, these are referred to as your data guarded systems. You have a primary, you have a standby, and when your standby is hot, it means you can also access it, but mainly for reporting purposes. Another way of configuring databases, nowadays we've got something called a cloud. So what the vendors have done is that they avail something called database as a service. So what you do is then you would have your database hosted on a cloud. And there's different types of databases, like I mentioned earlier in the example of the dealership where the data is not accessed frequently. That's your typical data warehouse configuration. It doesn't have too much traffic going into that. So it's data that you have stored there that is available for when you need it, but you don't have too many transactions or too many connections into that database. And then you have got your online transaction processing, which is the bank example that I made. That is where you know you have high volume of transactions happening. So what are the things to know with databases? Well, there are a lot of things to know with databases, but this one's, it's the ones that I think are quite important for one to know. For a database to come to life, it must be hosted somewhere. So you can't just have a database if you don't have where to put it. And they are usually hosted on a server. So there is a dependency that you must have a server for you to have a database. Usually users would interact with a database via an application. So let's say you are connected in a website somewhere where you are putting in information. You as a user are just seeing the website, but whatever information you are putting and you click a submit button, that information is then moved into your database and stored in that format that I mentioned earlier, which is your rows and your columns in the tables. So the dependency is on the operating system. For us to have a database, we must have an OS, whether it's on a hardware or it's on a virtual machine, but there must be an operating system that enables us to then have a database. I say the application is optional because you can have a fully functional database without having an application. For instance, like just now I said, you as an end user, you would connect through a browser and capture the information there. But as a database administrator, I can connect direct to the database without going through the browser. So that's why I said it's optional there. So they work together, but there's no dependency to say for a database to exist, there must be an application. There is then a network requirement. For instance, if you're going to have your 3-tier configuration, which you have your database, your application server, and your clients connecting to it. For that connection to happen, there must be a network in place.
Just to chip me in there, can you see? I just want to mention that to remind the friends that, yes, please, if you have a question, just unmute yourself or raise their hand there. And then
Can I take them once at the end, the questions?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so like I said earlier, it is quite important that the data in the database be kept, because it is required for business to grow and for things to work well. We need to have access to that data. But what if things go wrong? Because things could go wrong. A lot of things could fail. Like I just said now, the database is hosted in your operating system. What happens if your server fails, the server that hosts the database? Obviously, if it dies with its contents, including the database that is in it. So now what do we do to prevent ourselves or to minimize the likelihood of losing this critical data that is hosted in the databases? We then back up the databases, because once we have it backed up, we have an option to be able to restore it. Let me give a scenario. Let's say you are also a database administrator. Yes, you are a database administrator. You are connected to in your mind, you're thinking, oh, this is a test environment, and it's production anyway, but sometimes human error makes you not realize the two, and then you drop a table, and the table has got the employee data, for instance. If you do not have a backup, there's 2 ways of getting the employee data back again. You get a data capturer and you recapture everything. But if, for instance, you've got 3,000 employees at the time, so you're gonna have to wait for all 3,000 records of the employee data to have to be recaptured. So to minimize such an exercise, What we do is we would have a backup. You accidentally drop the table in production, we go to the backup, we restore the table. It takes less time, it takes less effort. We do not need a data capturer to come back to life. So backups are there so that we are able to restore from them, and they are part of the disaster recovery plan. Usually organizations would have a plan to say, in the case of disaster, how do we recover? How do we come back to being operational again? So then they would get in there as part of the disaster recovery plan, which is a part of a bigger business continuity plan. So what are the options then of taking these backups? Backups can be taken as hot or as cold. When you take a cold backup, what you would do is you would shut your database down gracefully, take a backup of it, and then start it up afterwards. That's what a cold backup means. It just means your database has to be shut down before it's backed up. A hot backup means that your database can be backed up while it's online. You probably wonder, okay, like under what scenarios would I need it cold, or under what scenarios would I need it hot? You would need a cold backup where when you want a point in time type of backup, every time you restore, you want to go back to 8 o'clock at night, any day. Then 8 o'clock at night, any day you shut your system down, then you will take a backup. A hot backup would mean if I back up the database at 8 and somebody runs a transaction that is committed at 8:05, it's not part of the backup. But luckily, these RDBMSs that we use are clever. What they would do is they would generate in an Oracle instance something called archives, such that if you restore, you will restore to that 8 o'clock, but whatever transaction happened after, you can still get that through the archive logs. Backups can also be taken as a full or an incremental backup. A full backup means you're backing up the entire thing. So if your database, for instance, is 50 gigs, your full backup will be that 50 gigs of data. So if you back up every night, full backup, you are taking that 50 gigs and the growth as it grows every night. And an incremental backup, it's when you back up the changes that have happened on a particular day. So ideally, or usually how these are configured is on your weekend when you've got more time, it usually works in databases that are big in size. You're going to take about 5 hours, 6 hours just to back that up. You run the full backup over the weekend, and during the week, you only take incremental backups, which is the changes that will happen. Maybe on Monday, you back Monday changes. Tuesday, you back up Tuesday changes. That's the incremental backup. Well, you can back up to a disk, which is the server. You can back up to the server where the database is hosted. You can back up to a server that is different from where the database is hosted, meaning you would run your backups locally and copy them over to another server. As long as they are still on the server, they are on your disks. You can back up to tape as well. When you back up to tape, however, is the normal way would still run as your backup goes on a local server. There must be something that is able to talk to a tape then, so that the data is copied from your server to the tape. Usually we use your third-party software like NetBackup, Commvault. Those are the ones that we use to back up to tape. You can also back up to a cloud. So licenses is another thing that you need to know of, and this one is very important because there are legal implications behind non-compliances. Like I said earlier, some of the popular databases, when I was displaying that slide, that they're open source. When it's open source, then it's just available for free. You don't have to pay anyone to use it. But for the other ones, you might have to license them depending on what you use them for. There are various licensing options then. They usually license them on a hardware or named user or a subscription based. So on a hardware, let's say you've got a hardware that has got 4 cores. Then what you do is just license the 4 cores, and then you can put whichever number of VMs that you want to put on that core. On a named user is if you know, okay, only 20 people are going to be using this at a time, then you license for 20 people. Once you start getting into number 21, you relicense because you are now in breach of the 20 that you're licensed for. A subscription-based, usually this one is used for cloud configuration. So it's more like pay as you use, but on a cloud. The licensing in terms of how they work and whether the terms and conditions are vendor specific. So depending on which one you use, for instance, a Microsoft would have different terms of licensing than an Oracle. So they depend on which one you use. So you just need to be familiar with the terms because they are available if you need them. And then you are subjected to being audited by the supplier. So at some point, if you are using an Oracle database, Oracle will send you a letter that say we would like to come and audit your environment because it is their product that you use, and by law you need to be licensed. Then you have to give them that option to come on site, and then they come and they audit you just to make sure that you are not in breach of the terms of agreement. Well, what are the career options then that are there in databases? There's various options that are there, especially, I think any field of IT, we know that things are progressing, things are moving on. We are going towards our fourth industrial revolution stuff. So there's more, but these are the popular ones that are available. You can be a database administrator. So what do these database administrators do? A database administrator is that person that is responsible for creating the database, for maintaining the database, and making sure that the database is available, it is healthy, it's in a good working condition. I mean a healthy database is the one that responds and acts as it was designed. Imagine a case where you have a database and you have to click a button and go and make coffee and come back. Only then you see the display screen, put username, go for a meeting and come back. Only then it prompts for your password. That's an unhealthy one. So the role of a database administrator is just to make sure that a database comes to life and it is available and usable. Usually, the database administrator would work closely in terms of bringing the database to life with the analyst, the guys who would gather the requirements, because we can't just create for the sake of having the ability to create. So we must know, okay, this database is gonna be used for this, because like I said earlier, there's different types. If you configure a data warehouse database for a high traffic environment, obviously that's a frustration there because it's not gonna behave as expected. Data warehouses were not designed for high traffic. So for one to know, okay, this one must be a data warehouse, this one must be this way, it's based on the requirements from the business. And then there's what we call database developers or programmer. These are the guys that would, for instance, the language that a database use is not the same as we end users would speak amongst each other. So for instance, if you are applying, let's use a typical example. You're on a website, you are at UP, you are applying to be a student, you capture your data, you put it on. When you click submit, the data needs to be stored in the database. But that submit button must then have a way of talking to the database in a language that the database understands so that it can store the data. That's where then the database developers or programmer come into play, because then those are the guys that will say, on clicking of a submit, run an insert statement that will insert the data in a table. Now that I'm talking about insert statement, it's a language that is called structured query language. That's the language that we use to interact with the database. So these are the guys that would write those queries for us. Then there's the data analyst. This one is also quite wide because there's different types of analysis that can happen on a database, but as the word says, it's data analyst. The role is just to analyze the data there. The analysis is driven by whatever the requirement is at the time. There's also the cloud database engineers. Like I said, nowadays databases can be hosted in the cloud. So you need the right people to be able to look at the database after the database is in the cloud. Okay, I think I have covered the presentation. I don't know if there are any questions then.
Okay, yes, friends, remember there's nothing, all the questions are just relevant, right? So she was just giving us the background in terms of what the database is all about. She talked about maybe like things like cloud, and then as you know, on our next session, that's where we'll be talking around what cloud is really all about. But I think my take from her presentation is that the database is quite wide. One can really make a career within the database is quite wide space for one to find themselves in. As you saw when she was mentioning around the types of databases that are out there, there are people who just specialize, for example, relating that to the careers the career path that she just mentioned. There are people who just deals primarily with Oracle, for example, or MySQL. So I think this is one of the areas that I think in respective of whether you'll be more expert or specialist in database, is very important for one, even if maybe you're not in the IT space, to familiarize yourself with what really database is all about, how do you get it working, and so that everyone can empower themselves. So any thoughts, any suggestion, or any question relating to what Kanyisile presented?
I see there is Geraldine's hand that is up. Just before I take the question, I want to emphasize on what Motlokwe has said. There's no stupid question. Like I say, we understand that our audience is quite wide. So don't feel like, oh, but if I'm asking, what I'm asking is a basic thing. It might be a basic to a techie, but you are not a techie. So if you want to understand, feel free to ask. Can I then take the question, Geraldine? You are muted.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether this is the hand, Geraldine, because the hand is still up.
Hi, Motlokwe. Hi,
Yes.
Motlokwe. Sorry, yeah, you're right. That was the old hand of previously when we asked if everybody could hear you clearly. So sorry.
All right.
No problem.
No problem.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions then? Any new hands?
Kanyisile, can I say something?
Feel free.
Yes. Firstly, I just want to say thank you to Motlokwe and the team for arranging this, and to you, thanks a million, because one has just been using data, but we're not knowing what's happening behind. It was quite informative in a short period of time, and at least I got some information. My question is, when there's maintenance done on the server, which type of backup are they using? Are they using the full or the hot or cold one? Because
when we do maintenance,
yes,
there's different types of maintenances that we do. So I'm trying to understand, like, what do you mean? Because typically, I'll give you idea or what we do when we are on IT maintenance where I work. We're shutting the system down. It could be a case that we are applying patches. It could be a case that we are upgrading. It could be a case that we are reconfiguring, we are migrating. So there's different reasons that would make us go into maintenance mode. But a case of a data, I'm just trying to think of a case where we would need a backup, because what we would do when we go to maintenance mode is we would take a full backup, put it on the site and do whatever maintenance. In case something goes wrong, then we are able to roll back, unless you're asking from that perspective.
Yes, I was asking from that perspective.
Oh, yes, we definitely, before we make any major changes on the system, we need the full one. Because when you have the incremental ones, what you would do is if let's say the full backup was taken on a Sunday, and then Monday to Friday, we were taking the incremental ones. And on a Saturday now, we need to have a maintenance on the system, and we don't back it up before we do the maintenance, and something goes wrong. It will mean we first have to restore the base backup, which is the one for that we took on a Sunday, which is the full one. and then applying rolling forward the incrementals from Monday up until we get to Friday. So instead of having one backup piece, you would have a full one for Sunday and the incremental ones for the subsequent day. So as you understand, imagine a case where you have that backup, but for whatever reason, your Wednesday backup, something went wrong and you didn't pick up, or as you are restoring in the middle of your restore while you're still on Wednesday, something happens on the server. So the easiest way to handle that case is we would take a full backup on a Saturday, so that if things go wrong on the very same Saturday that we were doing the maintenance, we can just restore to an earlier version. We know we're restoring from one copy of the backup and it's the full backup. Okay, I see there's a hand from TT. Hopefully I've answered you, Amos, before I move to TT.
Oh, yes, you did. Thanks, Emily.
All right, TT.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, and you?
I'm good. Can I ask, can you create a server on your laptop, like a small server?
You can have your VM on your laptop. Ideally, a VM will work better. You can have a little VM that you have on your laptop and then get into that VM and then either create your database there or have whatever application, whatever you want to run on that server. But yes, it's possible.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mpahlele, is it Mr. or Miss Mpahlele?
It's Miss.
Sorry.
It's
I
okay.
only see Mpahlele this side.
Okay, no, it's fine. Hi, Ken. Thank you for the presentation, and thanks to the organizers for the free sessions. They really help us a lot. I just have a question. You know, in this era that we live in of the new normal and the fourth industrial revolution, often we hear about data analytics and we hear about big data. And then earlier on, you mentioned data analysis. So could you just talk to us about what is data analytics? How different is it from data analysis? And what is big data? And how do all these things come together? Where do they fit in with databases?
We were actually having a conversation around this yesterday with Walter and Motlokwe. Walter, can I ask that you repeat exactly what you said to me yesterday to Ms. Mpahlele here?
Hello, Ms. Mpahlele. Thanks for the question, right? So yeah, generally we get this type of questions a lot. So basically, sometimes like we do tend to exaggerate or give things big names, but in reality it might be similar. So data analytics or data analysis, it's similar in a context where you just to analyze data and to understand the patterns around that data, to make a story around it and to make a decision based on that, right? So basically also with the big data component as well. Big data is just the analysis of huge data sets that you can analyze it on your typical machine that maybe like you might have. Normally those are used in an environment where streaming of data is required for machine learning purposes or even AI to predict customers like movements or anything like that. So big data is just the processing of huge amount of data. So it's not that different to what analysis means, just that you're analyzing on a big scale of data sets. I hope that possibly maybe answer your question.
Are you answered?
Yes, it has. I think we get caught up in the words. Meanwhile, it shows that it's speaking to more or less the same things. But thank you for the clarity.
Yeah, so in big data world, so normally what is used is the likes of like your quantum systems that like obviously has the much power to process that data set in a much more efficient way. And then if you have your small computer, it can't process that much of data. But in that world, that's where those kind of devices are being used. But yeah, it's similarly same thing.
Okay, Slondile.
Hi. I just wanted to know, as a person that's not in the IT field, but I'm currently working, if I were to want to move away from my field and get into more database IT related field, which would be the best way? In me saying that, I can't really, since I'm working already, I can't really afford to go back and become a full-time student and maybe do like a 3-year degree, a computer science degree. So what would be like your advice to someone in my situation?
Okay, just to answer your question there, you said what is the best way? I can tell you what are your options, but I can't say this one's the best or not. But
Yeah,
you've already highlighted that going back to school might be then a no-no for you. But depending on the company that you will be working for, some other companies are not so fussy about the formal qualification, but some companies want the formal qualification. So the route that you would go to get into databases would be get yourself the qualification. That's the route. Get the qualification. Once you have the qualification, you can also do what we call certification, what institutions like your Talk IT, even Oracle has got some workshops that they host where they would, I think even Microsoft would have, where they offer the training, and then you can get a certificate from that. Some companies would consider that certificate as sufficient, but like some, as I said, would require you to have a formal way. But the path to follow is get the formal qualification and have the certificates in place, then your chances of getting in there are much more improved.
Yeah, can I add in there? I think I saw even P already touched on it. So obviously, yes, I think it's always very key for one to get the formal qualification. But then maybe in your case where obviously at the time you are working, there are other institutions, you know about this Udemy, Coursera, I think the term they call it one, this massive open online courses out there. So for in my case, I'm learning the Python, and then I'm using the site called Udemy. You'll find them, some are free, but some they are with the cost. I found them quite very, very useful. And then of course, then they'll help you to do the certification. As much as obviously one is having 3-year degree, but you may find like actually someone with certification is quite well knowledgeable in terms of the doing part of it, right? So I'll suggest that maybe you can, use the sites like Coursera, Udemy, and that there are quite lots of them there. And then obviously even the YouTube itself, where you can I'm just really narrating what Sipiwe just mentioned there, which is I think is very important. On YouTube, you'll go there, you'll find various different tutorials, overview around database, or maybe you can zoom into the specific type of the database that you are interested in. And then there are quite lots of certification around that. I think that is one that's very key to look at. I think and doing this is also answering Mahlengi Ngozi also. I think she or him or he asked the question that, are there any good websites to get deeper knowledge and certificates for the database skills? I believe what we just said also is answering his or her question, which Simpiwe typed on our charts there. Unless also maybe from the floor, there's someone who also just want to want to add on that.
Can I also add that? So yeah, you raised a good point there on in terms of like getting info from YouTube or whatever case may be. But also one other aspect that is good for learning in terms of databases is practical example. Like sometimes like you have to maybe play around with such databases so like you can get a feeling of what it means and how it looks like, and then also when you get to the job itself become much easier, not to rely on heavily on like theory that you pick up somewhere in textbook, whatever. But yeah, so just normal practice on your own there is also quite good to have that.
Have you been answered?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I have.
Just maybe one other thing, as I said, sometimes these things are dependent on the organization you work for. Some other companies, while you are not in IT, if you indicate that you've got an interest in IT, what they would do is maybe allow you some few minutes a week for you to share to people in IT just to get an understanding of what they do. They might even have a development plan in place that will allow you to grow into that space, which is why I said it depends also on the company you work for. But one easy way or one way that would give you an advantage is to have the qualification or the certificate or both. Okay, John, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Kanyisi, and thank you very much, colleagues. Network has been,
I can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Sounds better.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much, KV, and thank you very much, colleagues. Okay, my question is with regards to the move of data from on-premise to the cloud.
Your line is breaking.
Yeah, so can I make a suggestion? Perhaps maybe you can type it on the chat. I'll read it,
Yes,
and then
please.
Kanyisila, she will respond, or any one of us. I think your network is failing. From there.
All right, perfect. I'll do so. Thank you.
Okay, while Join is typing, can I then get more questions or even comments? I understand that some people are already working in the field of databases that are in this meeting. So if there's any contribution, even if it's not a question, if there's something that you want to add, something that you think it's important that we highlight, please feel free to add on the conversation.
Yeah, Motlokwe here. Yeah, so I think what then we will be doing while we're still waiting for John's question and other perhaps to put their input forward. Now I think we did more around the theory, and then our next session, which I think will be, and then will take us maybe 15 or 20 minutes. Walter will take us through the demo. Just now, as we said, we are coming from the different fields. So it will be key just to give us the demo on how do you configure database, right? And then this will be in the conjunction, or it will be relating to some of the activities that we have done in our first session. First session, as I mentioned, we did a data analysis where we're using Excel. So we'll be showing all of us can you use maybe Microsoft Access to do some of those basic analysis that we talked about. Yeah. And maybe just to take another moment here, I think maybe even Sql, perhaps if you may need to, narrate what you write in there, we really appreciate it. But she or he mentioned that to those who want to build a website without knowledge of programming, I prefer you use Wix, wix.com or WordExpress for a start. It's internationally recommended and also accredited. So perhaps we can narrate a bit there, Sipiwe.
Yes, here I am. Yeah. Okay, does anyone want to ask me a question about this Wix.com and also was it WordPress?
Just maybe you can, maybe if you can just give a, okay, for one to access it, you go to the wordpress.com. When you get there, this is what you would require for you to start, or this is what is required for you to be able to configure a website, just a high level.
Or you just go there and give your details, especially they will ask you for your email address and your contact details, then you are ready to go, because it's just drag and drop to design those websites there without any knowledge of programming there.
All right, I have a question from my side. Do I have to raise a hand first, or can I just shoot?
You can just shoot out thing.
Usually when websites, if you have a website, it's hosted somewhere, there's a hosting fee and all of that. How does it work then with this WordPress or Wix? Is there a fee that I need to pay for my site to be hosted?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But I prefer most of the people to build their website from scratch, like from HTML to app. Then you won't pay any fee there.
Okay.
Because it's built by you. But if you want to go to Wix or was it Wix or WordPress, then you have to pay a fee.
Yeah, those websites normally give you a range of packages. Sometimes range from the standard and to premium. Premium means like you might have like more options within your creating your websites there. So yeah, it depends on the range of how much you want and how much you can pay.
Okay.
Are you
Any more
answered?
questions?
Are you answered, Kanyisila?
Yes, I am. I just, from his comment, he was just mentioning that you can go to those sites, but I probed for that so that that part of the commercial site or the payment site is highlighted, because then if you just say I go to a site, I would have expected that maybe it's free that I get there. So at least now people would go there knowing they might have to pay for the hosting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can
There's
I?
also
Can
a
I?
free
Can?
trial there.
Oh.
So I just want to say to Ms. Kanyire that there's also a free trial there to just test your skills there. You can go there.
All right, thanks, Pierre.
Okay. Yes, Motlokwe here. I just want to read the question from Mr. John. Why it seems like most companies are reluctant to move to the cloud? Is it because they are unwilling to update their legacy application or afraid of cyber? Yeah. So,
can I try and take a step on that and somebody can add?
okay, yes, I will add. Yeah.
I think there's two major reasons behind that. The first one is the legislative part of it. Some of the government entities, for instance, they can't host their data on cloud because of, yes, government legislative related stuff. Another thing was that, I don't know if now we have, but at some point there wasn't any cloud that is hosted within South Africa. You guys know we've got issues with Eskom and power, and so it was claimed that the infrastructure, but this is based on a conversation from 2 years ago, so maybe things have changed. But at that time, the conversation was that the infrastructure within the country does not allow for a cloud to be hosted locally. It is for that reason then that there's that reluctancy, because if it's not going to be in South Africa, where is your data? And what happens then if it's in a country where, you know, other countries, they still have got wars and whatnot? How will that affect you? And what about the stability then on the country? How will that affect you when things go wrong on their side, wherever your data is hosted? So those, for me, that I understand to be the two biggest drivers behind the reluctancy towards moving into cloud. Anybody else can
yes,
add that?
Yeah, Motlokwe here. Yes, so I think in that space about the data location, right? I think there are two major players, Microsoft and AWS. I think that now become maybe non-issue going forward, because now they have a data center in South Africa. So the location of where the data residence of where our data resides, I think now we have an option to say it should be in South Africa. So from that regulatory or compliance related, I think that may be now dealt with, because we have in data center in South Africa. And I understand other organizations, maybe perhaps with Oracle and whatnot, in the future, they really like to have a data center here in South Africa. So maybe without maybe taking long around this issue, our next session, which is be on the when is that? Our next session on the 4th will deal primarily around the issue of cloud computing, and also we'll touch on this cybersecurity. But more so is that we're also going to have another session which is deals specifically around the cybersecurity. So I'm hoping that we're going to get lots of clarity from also those sessions. Yeah. If maybe I can read another question here from Mbongenisi, right? He say, hi, I'm not sure if I missed this info. In one of the ladies' questions, what step do I take next after obtaining my degree? I believe this is a non-IT related degree. Is there a certificate I need, and what would you suggest? I think this one is meant to you, Kanisila.
Can Mbongeni clarify can Mbongeni clarify if this degree, when it says the next step after obtaining my degree, is it a degree in IT or not? Because if it's a degree in IT, yes, your next phase would probably to look at getting your certification in place, even if you get the basicest, because how the certifications usually would work, they would have levels. You would have, my experience is mostly on the Oracle side of things, so I'm just gonna, most of the time, refer to how things work on the Oracle side, but I know Microsoft has got an equivalence of that. Oh yeah, he just clarified, yes, it is a BSc in IT. So the next step will therefore to look at getting a certificate. You're gonna have to choose which database you wanna get into. Like we said, there's different RDBMSs, there's your Microsoft, there's your Oracle. Once you have made that choice, they usually have an entry one, which is called an associate certificate. So you would be a Oracle certified associate, which is like an entry into that. And once you are in there, there's your OCP, which is now the professional. Then as you are in there, they go up the ranks. But once you have your IT degree, now start looking into which field you want to go into. Once you have identified that, try and get the basic certificate. And also the certificate, as much as it's an advantage, you can still, with your BSc IT, get into databases direct. So it depends on where you start. I don't know if you are already an intern or if you are already working in the field of IT, because once you are in there, then it's slightly easier for you to switch or to move toward databases than when you are outside the IT.
All right. Right. I will make a suggestions, friends, right? And then I think then this question from Munyai may be also answered through the demo that Walter, I'd like him to take us through, so that people, I think it seems like now we are really quite interested to say, I want to do my own thing. How do I, perhaps if people now, like Munyai here, saying, I would like to know, how can I upload or host my website that I have quoted? So Walter, perhaps maybe this is one of the questions that maybe you can answer through the doing, through you taking us through the demo. Or lastly, perhaps maybe I can just ask Kanyisile if she may want to answer this question. Oh, and then I see that I think the question was sent privately. So yes, I just read it now. Maybe Kanyisile, you
can you please repeat the question?
Yes, I would like to know how I can upload or host my website that I have quoted. It's very broad question.
A website that they have already developed, they just needed to be hosted. So they just needed to be hosted somewhere.
Yes.
So you're gonna have to look at the various hosting options. I'd like to believe companies like, is it Vox that offers that kind of a service where they do hosting of services?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to look at the various options, but there's companies that you paid just to host your stuff there, whether you are hosting your database, your website, what, there would be a relevant hosting fee attached to it. I just don't have the names here with me.
Yeah, also, I mean, in terms of buying your own tool set might also be costly, but those offerings, like Kanyisile said, might help.
Yeah, so I believe this maybe might be the just last question in the brackets, not necessarily last question is for the session, but I like to ask to go to the next session where we do that demo so that people, they can get the feeling of what maybe we're really trying to talk about. This is from Frida. The certification you are referring to, are you talking about the practical side of things?
Yes, what you do is for you to obtain a certificate, for instance, you will attend a workshop. In that workshop, they would take you through the steps of how do you install the software, how do you create a database. When you create a database, where what goes, because when you create a database, there's the memory structure, there's the background processes, there's the actual files. Where does what sit? And then so that when you start doing the administration, you have a understanding of where what is and how, what is the role of each of those components towards that. So prior to getting your certificate, you would attend maybe just that one course where they explain everything, and then you sit for an examination, then you are certified to be an OCA or whatever Microsoft equivalent they have. I hope that clarifies it. I see there's a hand from Frida. I hope I called your name correctly.
I am answered. Thank you so much.
All right.
I had already typed in the question. Thanks.
All right.
Right.
Okay.
So yes, I think let's then go into the practical side of things. In mini practice, it's not necessarily something that is it's heavy. So I'll give this opportunity to Walter to introduce himself and take us through what he will be sharing with us.
Okay, cool. Let me see from here. Okay, maybe you can share your screen on your side. I will share my demo once I'm the host on my side, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, thanks everybody. So some of you might know me from the previous sessions. My name is Walter Tuvijani. Motlokwe and I share the same name. So we basically come from the same area in the rural areas there in Limpopo. But mostly I'm in the IT field. I've done quite a few other areas as well, not just data analytics or databases. I know quite a few of other fields as well, like your audit. I've engaged with audit guys. I've engaged with people within revenue assurance, also within the banking industry as well, in the risk space. But yeah, so like Motlokwe said, so this session will be a little bit of a continuation from what we had the last time. So last time it was quite a few queries in terms of, yes, when the time arises where we have limitations of using Excel, what else can we use? So basically, what I will show you is the easiest way that I mean somebody can access without going to learn what are databases first, and doing those courses online and stuff like that, which might take some time. But we'll just try to do a demo on something that you already have within your space, which is make use of the same product from Microsoft, which is Microsoft Access. So same product that is coming from your pack within Office, like your Excel and your Word. So which is something that you might be easier to access. than going through to get your SQL servers or your Oracle or whatever case may be. But before I go there, so I just want maybe give you a like a picture of what the database is, like from the architectural point of view. So if you see like the definition are a little bit technical, but those who are not in the technical space, so think about something like a building, right? So in a building, you have lower floors, you have middle floors, and you have top floors, right? So think about that as a database. So the level, the lower level is called normally the physical level or the internal level. So that's where it's closer to your physical memory within the space where you're hosting your database there. And then your middle level there is your logical level. That's where the data administrators get access through that. Like Kanisila mentioned previously, that there's various ways that you can access the database via an application, or you can also get it through backend, which is on the logical level there. And then you have a high level, which is where the users get interacted with the database through commands like from your applications and stuff like that. And then there's terms called like your schemas, and I'm sure you'll hear those kind of stuff going forward. So it depends on how you look at it. From sometimes like in your Oracle or in your SQL, they normally label as differently. So schemas basically is just the reference to tables within your SQL, but within your Oracle is like your reference to like a database as a whole, kind of like something like that actually. So it varies on how you look at it, but to me it's more around like the address into of your database, or data sets in your database. If you go to the next slide, just want to highlight something there, which is a little bit important. So as you said, there are a lot of programmers that does finicky stuff behind what as a user you can see. That obviously communicate to the language that is being defined to say how you can communicate with the database. Those commands there, there's a lot of complexity around that that is being designed there. That is where that high level, when I talk about like a building, where they sit, which communicates through to your middleware and your lower level to get the data set or to extract it from there. And then the storage structure is more around where the data sits, like sitting within your file systems, within your hosted environment, like in disk or whatever case may be. If you go next, I just want to show you like a typical example of the logical level, which is the middleware. That's where the administrators will have a view of. So they access that level. Sometimes like in your SQL Server, they access that through Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. Some of you might be familiar with this. So like typically you'll have like a server of Microsoft Server that hosts so many databases in there. Going to the like your right there, you'll see from the databases, you might have multiple stuff in there, your views, your store procedures, your security settings, and all of that in there, and also your tables that it defined as like a rational structure where they talk to each other. And then with regards to security, so normally there's different types of like level of access that you might get. So a typical user might not get privileged users, like that you can edit the data set or maybe change something within the database itself, as opposed to somebody who's an administrator who will have like privileged access to the database. That is, in a nutshell, how it looks like from the picture itself. So right now, I'll just maybe show you like what you have currently. Some of you might use it. If like I said, you have like a limitation within your Excel, where you have large set of data sets, maybe 2 million records or something like that, because normally we know Excel can't handle such large volume of records. So Access is the closest thing that you can probably use that is much easier and can be accessible easily by anyone else who has Microsoft Suite in their database, or no, in their workstation. Sorry. Let me see if I can. Can you give me a host on my side so that I can share my screen? Motlokwe, can you hear me?
Oh yes, sorry, I was saying yes. You are the host.
Okay, awesome. Let me see. This one.
I'll stop sharing. Yeah.
Okay. So you guys will tell me if you can see my screen, right? Okay, it's coming. The sharing of this thing is slow. Let me see.
It looks slow.
Yeah, let me see.
But perhaps when you're still getting it up here, as I just mentioned, we're going to using Access, and then Access comes as a package, I'll understand, of Microsoft Office. So primarily is that if maybe you have a Word or Excel, you should be having Access. I think it doesn't come as a separate package, I'll think. So
yeah,
perhaps we can then so long open your own Access so that perhaps you may be doing whatever, following him, what he'll be doing. I think maybe that may be the easiest way of practicing, right? So rather than just looking at the screen, we can so long perhaps do that. And my apologies. I think there are people who they are joining, but they're struggling to hold on for some time. It seems that maybe it's the issue with the network. So
yeah.
yes. So maybe when you still do that, I see Mamba Haribane Enos raise the hand.
Yes.
Enos?
How are you? Yes.
Good.
How are you?
Thanks.
I'm all right. Yes. I noted something somewhere somehow. I heard him saying Access can able to contain multiple files of data, that like millions of files. So I was asking if the Power BI won't be much easier to be used for database instead of Access.
You mean in terms of the size, right?
Yes, because I heard you saying it can't able to carry on with the like millions of files. So I was asking if the difference between the Access and the Power BI. So or the Power BI is not advanced rather than Access.
Yeah, so remember the Power BI, we can use it more in terms of like doing some charts. I don't know if you know the charts within Excel, right? So
Yeah.
if you want to display like your graphs and then in terms of how your data relates to each other, so that you can have a view in a graph format, then Power BI, yes, is the best way to have that. But obviously, like what you can also have is the connecting DB, which would be your SQL or Oracle or even Access as a data source. You can use that as well. But Access normally like have like a maximum of like 2 gig of data set that it can carry. So I was talking more about like limitation of what Excel has, right? So we know Excel has like 1,400,000 some odd rows as a capacity. And also even if you might have like 1 million records, you might still be slower to use Excel than Access with that million records. I don't know if you get that point, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it also depends on like how, like what you want to do as well. If you want to use graphs and charts, I think Power BI will be your best bet than Access, obviously. But if you want to maybe do some manipulation of data sets and try to play around with that and see how you can slice and dice that, maybe Access can be that. Or if like you want to use advanced programs like SQL itself or Oracle, you can go ahead do that as well.
Yeah, I can jump in there when talking about the Power BI, and I think in our audience we're having the guest that will be also narrating the whole story around business intelligence, and then Power BI I think will feature more in our next 2 sessions on the 18th of October. We'll be having a session that's purely around business intelligence, and then Power BI and other related tools will be discussed in full there. Thanks.
Okay, let me try to get that. Put me in there. Okay. Yeah, the network here is a bit bad. Okay, I will try again.
Okay, yes, so when you're still trying, I think let's try it for the last time. If we don't come right,
I can also do it from your side as well. It's fine.
Oh yes, I think why not? Let's do that. I think otherwise then I'm opening it here and then I'll share it here. I understand that I may give you, there's something, the control thing. Can I not give you does this mean like Teams where we can ask for control? Maybe check from your end, then I already open Access here and then perhaps we can do it from here.
Okay, share your screen.
I'm sharing my Access. Yeah. And let's see. Can you see?
Okay, yeah, and now I can see on my side.
I want to see if I cannot give you.
Let me see.
To take a control, like.
Yeah, this is not Teams. Okay. This is not Teams. Let me see. Okay, so do you have maybe those Excel files somewhere in your
Yes,
so that
I do.
I can navigate you. Yeah, I can navigate you there. Okay, so brilliant. So this is 2016, right? Microsoft Access within the. Am I right if I'm saying that you installed Microsoft?
Yeah, this is 2016. Yeah.
Perfect. So this one actually have more features than the earlier ones, which normally you have to do a lot of settings beforehand before you can use this and integrate with other tools like Excel and stuff. But anyway, great. So in actual fact, this is what you did to create a database. I just want to go back to where before you create this database so that anybody can see how you created this database, right? Just share your desktop.
Let me share the whole desktop, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, let me minimize this thing here. All right, yes, it's a start.
Yeah, go to start. Yeah, type Microsoft. So this is part of your Microsoft suite, guys. Within that, you'll have Access, Excel, Word, whatever. So the license part is part of the Office suite. So you're good to go. You don't have to like once you have like a Microsoft Office license already in your workstation, so you don't have to require like a separate license for this. So already you will have it. So if you open that,
Walter, maybe I might just make a claim now. Now it's a half past, right? And then we already at the end. So I just want to say, friends, I think we like just to proceed for the next how many minutes, Walter?
We can do it 15 minutes. I just want them to see how it looks
like. Just to get the feeling around that. So please just bear with us for the next 15 minutes for those who may still have the time to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So this is like your typical window that will give you how you create the database itself. So there it gives you option to say, okay, what's the name of a database you want to create, and also the path where the database you host it. So maybe there like you see that the path is saying in your documents folder. If you want to take it somewhere else, you can obviously navigate that through the browser, but you can say create. Now it creates a database for you. It calls example in this case. So now how you want to get the data set into this, right? So normally you go to just close that, go to that tab of table 1. Yeah, and then right click. And then if you want to close it, just go to that window of table 1, actually, on the right-hand side. On the right-hand side.
Right-hand side. Here.
Yeah, there. Yeah, at the top. Yeah, a bit go a bit. Yeah, there. Right click. And then close. Okay, so that will be clean database. So go to the tab of external data. That's where you'll get the data set from wherever source you might have. So if you have other set like your text files, you'll see you have options there. You have so many options that you can get the data from as your source, right? So go to Excel. This one we want to get it from Excel. Then yeah, so you browse it where you located your files.
You will have to guide me here. Which data do you want to use?
The one with patients and remember we had this one, patients.
Okay,
and
patients. I think which.
week 4.
Yeah,
Yeah, that one.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it in the columns and rows, right?
Okay. Yes. Let me do this. Okay. Okay. Let me do this. Oh, okay. Now, just tell me, you don't need this, yeah?
Yeah, I don't need all of that. Just take it out. Then take the top, out.
And then, do you need this? Nothing is cool,
yeah,
because it's having the whatever.
Yeah, but remove the top row. I mean the top empty rows there, so that it structures nicely. Remember, when you import, how Access does is, or even any other program that import data set, it first looks at your rows and column there. But it will be easier if you do this before you import your data sets. Sometimes you can also maybe specify from where it can start importing.
Happiness.
Go to patient results there again. I want to get rid of the first column there, which is empty.
Yes, I did.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Let me save this.
Save and close. So you have to close it first.
Okay. So let me check the location. Week 4. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because if it opens in a different program, you want to close it first before access.
I must go there again. I think I just worked on it now. Yeah, it's this one.
Yeah, and then open. Okay. So here you say import the source into the new table in the current database, right? That's what we want. Okay. Say okay. So just say open. Yeah. So so you'll see there in that sheet you have multiple tabs, right? So the first tab is your parent records. You have functional records. You have patient record, right? So you choose which one you want to import first. So we chose the first one, which is patient records, right? Say next. That's how it looks like. And then obviously you specify there your first row should be the column headers, right? Which normally define it nicely there. And then say next. And then from here, that's where you set up your data types. So if you have like numerics, sometimes like you just have to go in that data type window there. You can choose whatever you want, but there it gives you as a default like a double, which is the number. And then if you have like say names there, just go to say name, hover into say name, yeah, column. You see there it changes, so it's short text. You can change that to long text or whatever you want to make it. Yeah, I think normally it creates for you because of it clearly defined already when you insert these data sets in there. So you'll be fine. So just say, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are like normally your sanity checks, right? So before you do that, just to make sure that.
And then what about the index? Can you say something here?
Yeah, so indexes are primarily mainly for like when you have like large data sets. So if let's say it goes to search quickly, so index is just giving it like a memory or an address in the memory, right? It's just purely that, but it's not that important if like just using I don't know, like 1,000 rows or million rows.
Okay.
So normally, yeah, it's just something like that's huge. So, and then here it's more around like the keys, right? So either you give it primary key or you don't give it any key. So normally I normally prefer you to give a key for this data set. So normally our key will be a patient number. So normally it gives you a default ID, but you have to choose your own primary key there. So
just explain quickly that primary key. What's the primary key, so that everyone.
Okay, so primary key, it's used to when you want to make a relationship with another table. So let's say if you want to connect to another table, how they are related, right? Normally, based on your ID, something that is unique within that table. If you have a name there like Thomas there, what is something unique about Thomas? Is his patient number. And if you go to another table, it will give you something like reference to that Thomas guy as a patient number.
Yeah.
So that's basically it. Yeah. Okay, you can say next. You gave the primary key as a
and then maybe my other comment is my recommendation. Obviously, that's my preference to say, colleagues. I think now, friends, you can still ask the question, right? I don't think this asking the question at the end here will really help us a lot, right? So in between here, when we proceed, please just get in and then ask the question if you have. I think that will be the effective way, so that when we're done, we know.
Before you do that, so here you can create. I mean, you can name your table the way we want. So at default, because of it get that name from the Excel tab name.
Yeah.
Here you can create your own, but it's fine if you can leave it like that. Just say finish.
So this here we're importing the first sheet, right?
Yeah. Okay. Say okay.
Let me just. What do I do here?
No. Just say close. No,
close.
don't. Yeah.
Okay. Let me open this so that we are on the same page. Yeah. I just want to open an Excel. So now we imported this first sheet. Yeah. I'm right, Walter. Yes. Okay.
Okay. So just go to the tables. It should be there, right? Double click on that. Double click on the table. Yes. So you see how it looks like, right? In Access. Similar structure in your Excel, right? You're happy with that, right? And then if you want to import another table, you go through the same steps. I was just trying to show you the relationship of how you can create that, which is quite important. Because after that, you can do whatever you want with this. So like summing up. So like relationship gives you something flexible, like your VLOOKUPs in your Excel. So here you can literally drag and drop based on that primary key, like I showed you. Maybe quickly import another table that I want to show everybody this quick trick. Okay. The same table, is that the one?
Yes.
Okay.
So I must go to patient record.
Yeah, patient results. Yeah, patient records. Okay, so next. First row, yes, next. Everything is, in the first row there, is nicely there. It's double and whatever. Yeah, no indexes, fine. Okay. And then you have primary key. Yeah, make it as the patient ID as a primary key.
So, but okay. So in this, okay. Anyway, let's not talk about foreign and whatnot. All right. So I believe you'll touch on that. So I'm going next. Yeah.
Yeah. Just go next, and then you have that patient results. Okay. Say close. It's gonna come there, right? Excellent. So if you double click that, the patient results, you'll see it's imported, right? So so basically how you will do a relationship between the two, like if you want to do a VLOOKUP or something like that, normally in Excel, you normally tend to do that, right? In Excel, but here you'll be actually much easier than you have in Excel. In Excel, you normally typically write your function like VLOOKUP, whatever, ID in another sheet, and write that long program. But here it will be much easier to use this. So go to create tab, right? Up there. Okay, so in your create tab, so we have to design a query. So go to under queries there, you have a query design. Now, brilliant. So now it will give you something like this, right? So we want to design how we want our results will look like. So first of all, that show table screen there in front of you there. So you'll see you have two tables in there, right? Below that, the patient and records, right? So if you double click that first one, you say, okay, let me insert that. You want to add that, okay? Add the second one as well into the pane.
So I'm double clicking, yeah?
Yes, yeah, 100%. Now close this pane, yeah, this window. Okay, so we have it there. So how you can do this? This is a VLOOKUP, right? This is how cool it is. So a VLOOKUP there, you just basically drag and drop. You don't need to write all those stories and stuff. So if you go to that patient record, you click that patient, yeah.
This one.
Yes, yeah, this one. Drag it into that patient in your patient result table.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, drop it there. There's a little arrow there, right? So that say, like there's a relation between these two tables based on the patient number, right? So I want you to click run first.
Where's run?
At the top, left, top left there. Go, yeah, there. Okay. Okay, so just say close. Okay, so you have to specify which columns you want to insert, right? So go to that patient, yes, that one, double click it. Double click it, yes. Now it's inserted, go to, so if you want to display the surname of the person as well, say initials as well, possibly a gender, maybe, just say gender, on a gender.
Oh, gender, yeah.
And then go to amount, get that amount.
This one?
Yeah, just amount. I just want to show you something. And then go to run again, click run. Do you see, you have done the VLOOKUP. So it's match between the two tables using that patient ID. It's like you're finding, okay, you said from patient record to say, look up that person in that patient result and get the amount of it. Just like that.
Okay, let's get here. Friends, are you still there? Let me just get the feeling, yeah? Are you following?
Yes, well,
okay, all right, great.
Okay. So yeah, so I mean, from here you can do a lot of stuff here with this. So if you go to just go to top left there, view.
Yeah.
Click that, yes. So you see here, right? So normally people who likes Sql View, like try to like likes to develop or whatever, right? SQL queries and stuff. You can literally have a view of that. Click that so that people can see.
Which one? SQL.
Yes, second one. So you see, this is how it displays in the background, right? Of that. So what you say is, get the table, join on patient number between those two tables. Do you see that?
Okay, no. Let's go easier, right? You select this sheet, and then in the sheet you select this head. What do you call?
The columns, right?
The column,
the
yeah.
Column
this is a column. This is a column, and then this is the column. This is the column. This is the column. This is the column. This is the column, right?
Yes. So yeah. So the last column there is the amount from column patient results.
Yes, from this table, from different from this table. So
and the
all
others
of this
are from
we get from this, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then you say from the two tables which you join, patient
join
records.
them together, yeah.
Exactly, join them together on. Okay, you join them on.
The
yes,
primary
patient
key.
number.
Yeah.
Exactly. So That's how it works in the background there. If someone likes to do SQL queries and stuff, you can literally come here and do this, and then you can run it from there. But if you want to use the drag and drop, you can also do that. So it gives you flexibility on that. So yeah, so go down to the design view. Design view is where you do a drag and drop, which is more of like the easier part. But if you want to do the SQL part, then you can switch over to that. Then if you want to view the results in that view, the first one there, data sheet view, you can view the results of that. All right, around there. Yeah, so this is quite cool, right? So let's say you have, okay, save this, right? I want to show you something as well, which is quite cool. Save this query, go to that query, top of the query. No, go back. Yeah, on top of that, yes, you can save it, name, give it the name.
I'll say, I think that the friends who do that, this is a VLOOKUP wanting to get the amount. Yeah.
Yes.
Just a VLOOKUP amount. I think.
Yeah.
I think people will understand from that context. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Press OK. I want to show you how powerful Microsoft or how clever Microsoft guys are. Right. So save this database. Go to the top there and save the entire database. Yeah, top there, maybe just say save. Just say save is fine. And then close it. Yeah, and then close it. So we name it like example 1, right?
Close all of this.
Yeah, no, you can go like close this whole the whole window there at the top right. Top right there.
Oh, close the whole thing.
Yes, close the whole thing. I want to show you something. Okay, so we saved it, right? So you know where you save it, right?
Probably, yes. Database, I think it's somewhere here. Yeah, it's this one.
Yeah. Example is an example 1 there, down there. Okay, yes. So open an empty Excel sheet. I want to show you how you can integrate between the two. Okay, so in here, remember the source is not in Excel. Now the source of data set is in Access. You import it in Access from maybe text file, whatever case might be, and then here you want to do whatever you are used to, right? So let's say you want to do a pivot in here. Go to Insert and get the pivot, for example, all right? It's the pivot table. Okay, now you can select external sources. Go the second one there, option there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, click here, say choose connection. Then say browse for more, down there, no, down there, yes. Browse for more. And then go to locate that database, right? Yeah, somewhere down there in that documents.
This one.
Yeah, example. Click, yes.
Okay, let me just be admitting people to come to join us, yeah? Okay. Yes.
So you said open, right? Okay, cool. Now
no, I'm here now. Oh, I'm saying okay.
Yes.
And then open.
Yeah, open. Yeah. Awesome.
So
you see, it gives you that. It gives you that query, which is the VLOOKUP amounts, right? And those two tables that we imported in Access, right? So which table you want to do a pivot on? You can choose. So remember, this is the view in Access. These are tables in Access currently. So let's say, let's go to that VLOOKUP amount. Yeah, click that. Yeah, so you click that and then say okay. Click that, say okay, and then say okay here. So you see, it gives you exactly the same fields that are in that Access database here. You can literally do whatever you normally do in your Excel pivots.
Yeah, so what I understand here is that you can import from Excel to Access, or in case where you are having the what do you call the Access, you can do the other way around. You can take import from Access to So the thing is that I think what I'm hearing or I'm seeing here is that you must just know what you're looking for and know the capability of these tools, right? We know Excel, right? In Excel, we can do this nice pivot table. Remember, for your colleagues who did this thing previously, right? Remember, we can drag this thing here. Maybe this is not an ideal one. Maybe we can say what the amount here. Remember the story, those stories, right? And then you can do pivot here, those nice things. So
nice
you
things,
may be saying that in Access, you cannot necessarily do this, but Access is very good when you do what the VLOOKUP, for example. You know, VLOOKUP here, you must say VLOOKUP this long thing, and remember here will be saying VLOOKUP from where?
That's
the story. Yeah, remember that story. to deal with this issue, you can use a Access. Yeah. But when you are in Access, you manipulated your data and everything is cool, but you want to make it presentation. You will say, okay, you know what? I think Excel is very good in terms of the data visualization. No, let's not talk about that heavy nice thing about the Power BI. Then you can come this side the way you just proceed.
Yes, you can actually literally do everything. It's like take this as an application and then your Access being your database. The same scenario Kansile was talking about, right? To have the application, use Excel as an application and then your like a database as your Access. Let's say you have more records because of Excel, it will be very slow, right? Doing this, you can host that data set, that large data set in Access, and then do this, you know, pivoting. I mean, the pivot and you know the graphs in here in Excel, the way you want. It also depends on what you want.
Let's just hear. I just want to get the feeling from the floor. Yeah. Are we okay? I see the chat here. I really
How
like
do we?
to.
Let me see.
How do you use Excel to insert the new patient record on existing database?
Okay, so you can go into. Okay, can I answer that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you can go literally into that database itself, and then you can insert whatever record you want in that existing table. Or do you want to like insert more records from maybe another Excel or something in the same table? Is that the question?
So yeah, I think what I'm hearing is that maybe the question is, can I insert the new row on the Access, right? If the question is yes, how, right?
Yes.
Or I want to update my Excel and then I want to import this row I just inserted in my Excel to Access. How do you do
that? Okay, go to Access database again. I'll show you how to insert the
so when I'm doing that, Sipiwe, yes, I will share with you the YouTube link of where you can get this record together with all these VLOOKUPs that we are talking about. We did them on the previous sessions, and then I'll be sharing the channel, that YouTube channel that we always refer to.
Okay, open that Access database in your documents. Just double click that thing and
in my documents is this one.
Yeah. Okay. Enable contact. Yes.
Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing, and then they will just give us an indication. So I want to add new Motlokwe here.
Yeah. So if you go down there.
Where is down there?
Yeah, just like that. Down to the last row there.
Yes.
So do you see that on your last row there?
Yes.
You see that you can also insert like there. Can you type the number there?
Okay. So, so what is this thing here? This is read only.
It's in read only.
Oh, so because we are using it here.
Yes.
It's opened, right?
Yes, open. Yeah. Close the Excel.
Okay. Can I close this thing? Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
So, man.
Yeah, I have to.
Must I? Okay, let's see. Okay. Anyway, let's just do that.
Yeah. Enable
So we are
login.
here. So we're saying we can go to the end.
Yeah, somewhere there.
But maybe we're still not answering that question. But yes, I see what you do. So we're going to edit manually here. Yeah?
Yeah, yeah, you can edit, yeah, there.
So
Can I jump in, Motlokwe?
Yes.
I'm glad you're mentioning that you guys are not answering the question. The question is, how do you use Excel to insert a new patient on an existing database?
Yes. So
I think to answer that question, what Walter demonstrated when they were importing the data from Excel to MS Access is exactly the process you would follow. It's just that when he demonstrated, there was no existing data, but if you were appending or adding to an existing one, it's exactly the same process if you do it through Excel. So you have a record in Excel and then you just follow the steps that he has followed, and then your data is going to be uploaded there. But he's demonstrating now there is an option that you can insert the record directly on the database by typing like he's typing now. But if it's through Excel, it's how he has demonstrated.
Yeah, also you can, let's say you insert something in that Excel, right? Records in that Excel. And then if you want to import it in the same location or the same table name, you can also do that. You can append, right?
Yeah, can we? Yeah, because I was thinking that we show them manually here, and then I want to add the row, that row here, right?
Yeah, go to
yes,
Excel.
That was my aim. We show them the manual, and then we come and add the row here. So because I understand when we are going to do it, I wanted that concept of appending so that we don't want to load the whole thing. I wanted you so that to give us the clarity. So let's say this fellow is also coming from Eastern Cape, yeah?
Yeah.
Just say this, and maybe he's owing this amount. Remember those things. Yeah, so I'm having this now, yeah? We showed them the manual one, yeah?
Yeah, save this thing.
So, yes. So I want to save this, yes, yeah? Now I want to insert this row. I want to insert this fellow.
Yeah, but close the Excel, because if you're opening the different sheet. Okay, so go to Access, say external data.
Sorry?
External data on top there. Yeah, Excel, and then you can say, okay, you see, yeah, go choose that, choose the that Excel that you just inserted. Yeah, okay, so you open.
Yeah. But I
then
don't
go
want...
to the second option. No, second option.
Yes.
You see where it says append a record in that table. That's exactly the same. So you can do that. Yeah. So and then here you can say yes. Okay, you can cancel or close that thing. Yeah. So it's in that. Remember, you have different sheets there. It's the same. It's the one, the first sheet, right? Yeah. So say next.
This one, yeah.
And then yeah, next. So here is a default because of, remember, it's already being set out already. So just go next. And then yeah, you can say finish.
No, but what? Also, it's going to append. Oh, you read correct.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one that I wanted us to look at. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's going to take the difference.
So yeah, so just close that. You'll see there. You'll see that records is set in there. So go down there. It should be.
The fellow should be coming from this guy. Yeah, because we didn't give him the names. Yes.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes. So yeah, I think the concept that why we started that side, we just wanted to show we can do it manually, or then you can come and do it.
Yeah.
Other comments from you, friends? Well, Walter still thinking of the last thing.
Question, quick question, Walter. So now when importing this data from Excel into Access, because now we have different sheets, is it possible that you can just import the different sheets at once? Because now, for instance, we have patient records and then we have the other sheet, I can't remember the name, but then is it possible that you can just import them at the same time and then with the same format without having to pick them one by one?
No, you can literally do that. So
Okay.
normally, yeah, it just allows you to specify
Each.
because remember, each, because
So
remember,
it's per sheet.
Yeah, it's per sheet. So remember, each sheet will have its different data types and how you define your settings there. It will be different sometimes. Yeah.
All right. Okay. No, thank you so much. I think even the VLOOKUP, it's making it very quicker and easier to do. Thank you so much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Okay then.
I think John went
John.
John, I'll believe maybe your mic now. Yes. Mr. John. All right, Walter. Perhaps maybe we can wrap up or whatever the last point you want to mention. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, like I said, normally Microsoft gives you a flexibility around this, right? So that's how you use it, like integrating between Excel and Access. So there are other stuff that you can also do here, like your forms, like you can create like reports or your forms or whatever using the data sets, depending on how, like what you want, what flavor you want to give your bosses. Normally people want to impress their bosses. So you can literally do it using this and export the data sets into either your PDF, your Word, or whatever case may be that you want. So there's more options that you can get from this. And also, you can literally export data or connect data with other databases. Connect from this database with other databases, right? Like your SQL database. So that ODBC, and I think in the earlier versions, you had to do like a setup in your control panel before you can set up that connections with like other external sources. But here you can do it like seamlessly. If you have a SQL server somewhere there or Oracle, DB somewhere hosted in another server.
Hi, Walter.
Yes.
Sorry, man. Network has been dribbling me, so I just wanna very quickly before it kicked me out of the system. I just want to actually ask you a question. You know, like before you could import the data from Excel to Access, there were few actually transformations that you've made. For example, you have deleted some unwanted, rows and so forth. So I want to check with you, like in terms of, I know other BI tool, they also allow you, after you exported the data into, say like Power BI or any other BI tool, it does actually allow you to do some transformation that you want to do, whether you want to, insert the new column or new row, or you want to actually append tables and so forth. Does actually Access also allow you to do, after you import it, allow you to do that further transformation?
Can you repeat the question again, sir?
Am I breaking?
Yeah, no, I think you were, just, no, you're not necessarily breaking, but Walter is nowhere to be found. I think he's going to rejoin now.
Okay, let me.
Oh, yeah, he's here.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, oh, okay. Are you here now, Walter? Can you hear me now?
You are very clear. I don't know whether he can hear you. You are very clear from.
Oh, okay. No, I'm going to try. Yeah, I'm going to try ask again. So,
okay.
Yes. So if you were to advise, right, before one could export the data from any source. So in this case, I think it was from Excel into the Access, So will you advise that that person clean up the data or do that transformation before the export, or maybe the person should export, you know, first and do the transformation there. So in this case, I think you did some cleanup, some transformation, you deleted some unwanted columns and rows before you could actually export to Access.
You know, yeah. So okay, thanks for that. Very good question. Normally, we tend to get stuck in that before we do some analysis around the data set. So the first prize I would say is clean up the data set while it's in Excel, because if you can see how it looks like, and so that it will be easier for you when it landed into your Access database, that you don't have to manipulate it via your SQL query or something, because that might be a bit messy when you try to write those queries to clean up there. If you prefer that, then you're welcome to do that, to manipulate the data set or clean it inside your database. It's fine. But if you don't want that hassle, you can literally do whatever we did, just clean up before you import it in there, because it will be simpler, where you literally just do the analysis. Normally, we tend to spend time trying to clean up the data inside the database, which is not ideal. So the ideal set is get the first data sets that will be more readable, so that when you get to the database, it's much clearer and cleaner, so that you can do your analysis at much quicker pace.
Okay, no, just to add on that, I know in Excel, I haven't seen anywhere where Excel actually can track all the changes that we're doing. But then I just want to check with you on Access. Does it also track all changes? Does it log that? Does it have the transaction log, you know, to say this column has been deleted, this one has been added, or any other transformation that has taken place?
Okay, so in Excel, I mean, in Access, if you have that capability set out, it can log whatever activities you've been doing. But I haven't explored that. I have to do that. But I know databases or like programs like ACL does that for you. Without you configuring it, or having it to specify that, okay, if I do any changes, can you maybe tell me, or do like a track changes before I make any changes, to see where at the last time I did this change, or where I can maybe roll back. But some programs are a little bit clever than the others. So I know ACL does that for you, like without any hesitation. But this one, normally it doesn't do that, unless if you've saved the first draft as like a different database, and then you'll work on maybe like a different one as well. But in terms of like the audits itself, no, I haven't explored that option.
Okay, can I add on that?
Mm-hmm.
My edition is generally on the other databases, not just looking at MS Access. Such a capability is always there, and for others is there as an option. For others, it comes as auto-enabled. So it's just a matter of finding out where to enable the feature of auditing, because once you have that enabled, then your logs in terms of tracing, they can happen. But mostly why it wouldn't come as a auto-enabled for the other one is because obviously, depending on how busy your database is, the log file gets to grow based on what you are auditing. If you are auditing every connection, every select, every update, every delete, you're going to end up with a log file that has got lots and lots of row, and eventually you are having difficulties extracting any useful information from it. But there are also solutions in place that are saying if your log files are huge, that you can't just, because now if you have a log file that has got 7 million rows and you just want to know what happened at 11 o'clock when somebody deleted something, Therefore, nowadays, there's solutions that enable you then to play around with the logs and be able to extract what happened at 11 o'clock when something happened, regardless of the size of the log files. So it is a feature that is available in all the databases. You just have to find where to enable it if it's not auto-enabled. And then when it comes to the question that you asked earlier, John, where you were asking, is it clever or is it better to clean up first before you upload or after? Obviously, in a case where you have, this is a new table that you are importing to, then you have got the choice to say, okay, I can clean up after the import, or I'm going to have to clean up prior to an import. But if you already have got an existing table, the table already has got your columns. So for you to wanna import, let's say your table in this case that is displayed has about 2, 4, 6, 8, 11 columns, but you are trying to import an Excel sheet that is coming with about 20 something columns, it's not gonna work like that. So in a case where it's a new table, then you have the flexibility to choose, but for an existing one, it's ideal that you match your Excel structure to already what you have on the database so that the import is easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I think this discussion is very interesting. We can even go up until 7 o'clock, right? My view is that maybe let's say in the next 3 minutes, let's wrap up. Walter, maybe your last take, and then I'll just give one of our attendees to say something, and then we should let God pass at least. But now we have a 2-hour, 15 minutes now. Then we should wrap it up, and then so that we can go and do other activities. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, so using of these tools, depending on what problems you have and what you would try to resolve. So it like gives you like that flexibility to say, if I use this, then how am I going to structure my solution around the problem that I have. So here we're just giving you different type of options that you might have. Some of them you may not be aware of. So now you might go back and say, oh, okay, so now I have too much flexibility in terms of using Excel, Access. Yes, other stuff like Power BI, people who knows about Power BI, you can also use that as well. So this is primarily like trying to solve problems that you have. So it's not to say get to know the tool in and out. It's just that make use of it so that you can resolve whatever issues you have. I think that's my take there.
Thank you. So that's the form thing. I think, okay, from my end, right, and then I'll also give Kanyisile. I think the idea is that is always key that it's like mathematics. You cannot see this thing and understand, right? So everyone, I'll think, if you have Office, you have Access, please do it, practice. I think it's just really about practice. Practice, drag here, delete there, mess it up, start again. I think that's where you're going to confidence in terms of this usage of these tools are important. And then more so because now you're having a foundation. I think Kanyisile painted a very good picture in terms of what database is, what it's about, the types, and all those important ingredients. So I think my take here is, please go out there, perhaps maybe start with this access, build these tables, drag, and so that you practice. And I think the channel is still open. This online bootcamp is still there. If you have some question, you can send an email to that email address, and then we should be checking going forward what we do. Maybe before I did it close, let me give Kanyisile a chance to say her last words.
From my side, thank you guys for having me. It's been interesting sharing what I know. Sometimes we take it for granted that we know these things, and because you know it, you think it's just simple things. Everybody knows it, and kind of forget where we started as well. So hopefully from this session, somebody managed to pick a thing or two that now makes databases start making sense. So yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, those are my parting words. Thanks.
Thanks. Walter, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. Thanks everybody for joining and listening to my voice. I know it's not the best voice in the world, but yeah, I hope what I've shared with you, you can make use of it in the professional world. So yeah, thanks.
Okay, great. The friends, I think we enjoyed the 2-hour session, I think. And thank you very much. What we'll do, I'll upload this on YouTube. We already have a channel we called Online Bootcamp, but I will reply to the email where I'll send you an email with the link of that channel. And then in that channel, you'll see this session will be the 7th session. So if you may need to visit Excel, you will do that. You have that access, and also more so to access this session. And of course, it's really, you are at liberty to share this with your friends, and so that it is really about empowering each other or one another. And other thing is that in the next 2 weeks, we'll be having a session where we'll talk about cloud computing. That is my passion, and even today we touched on it in terms of security. John mentioned about that, and also Kanyizile talked about the database as a service. Those are some of the things that we will be dealing with in our next session in the next 2 weeks. The week after that, we'll now talk about the Power BI as we talked about them here in detail, right? So thank you very much for the time, and take care out there. Corona is still around, and we must wear our mask, social distance, and wash our hands now and then. Thank you very much, friends. Bye-bye.
Cool. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Now, where do I stop this dance now? Oh, wait. Okay, man. Let's do this. Let's do this. I want to stop.